Yeah. Well, guess what? We made it. We made it. We made it. Welcome to the Ruby Girl Talk with your favorite Ruby Girl, Dr. K, but also known as Coach K. Tonight it's time for the Ruby Girl Talk with Miss Mary Magdalene. I like to call you Mary Magdalene.
That's fine.
I just identify with that, and it's so unique and it makes you so special. That's why I like to say it. So tonight we got an interesting topic, a topic that I think everybody has probably experienced. They either went through it, know somebody that went through it, or going through it, or you can just read the news and find out about it. So we're talking about mental health awareness, and tonight we're going to be transparent about what we've been facing. You know, when people ask you, how you doing? Oh, my arm hurt, my leg hurt. But you don't never tell them, hey, my brain hurt. My brain ain't right. Something ain't right. Because we're so scared that people gonna look at us and think crazy. But guess what? I say this all the time. Your brain is a body part. And so just like your arm hurt, just like you have to go to the doctor about your other organs, you have to also go to your doctor about your mental health too. And because so much has changed since the pandemic and we think about the politics and people attitudes and just so much has changed just in 5 years that it's more stress, it's more stressors. And so of course there was more people having mental breakdown and mental issues and mental struggles. And no one is exempt. No one. I was talking to my last guest and she said everybody is like one death, one incident away from breaking down. A lot of us just holding on by threads, and it's just take that one little thing, and that's it. So before we get started, what I want you to do, Mary, is go on my page, find this video, and then share this video to your page, okay? And so I'm gonna give them $1 million commercial for free tonight. So once again, my name is Dr. K. I operate in the role of Coach K because I love to teach people about AI. Because AI is the next move, and you don't want to miss the next move. But my brand is the Ruby Girl brand, which comes from Proverbs 31:10. Who can find a virtuous woman for her price is far above the price of a ruby? But listen, ladies, the Ruby Girl experience is coming December the 13th. Let me tell you, you want to be in that room. Last year, I had so many testimonies about transformation, how people lives have changed, how people connected with other people, contracts was passed, books was sold, lives was transformed. It was totally amazing. And that's why it's called the Ruby Girl Experience, because it's not an event, it is an experience. And so this year I'm gonna have a panel of ladies and we're gonna be talking real talk. Sometimes we need that girl talk, that woman talk. And so December the 13th at 4 o'clock p.m., we're going to have that conversation. So now you're like, how can I get a ticket? How can I get a ticket? Can I be a vendor? You can be a vendor. The tables are $40, the tickets are 25. Go to rubygirl.net, get you a ticket. Email me at prayerdidit@aol.com and just put in the subject line vendor, and you can become a vendor if your products are right, okay? Because I'm going to be screening them. But just kidding. I want you to be at the Ruby Girl experience because it's going to be an experience. All right, so let's talk about our guest tonight. Miss Mary, could you introduce yourself? Give us a 30-second introduction. I think you're on mute.
I'll be
There
trying
you
to
go.
remember to do that. Okay. Well, hello, Dr. K. Thank you again for having me back on your amazing podcast. And I just thank you for all you do. And for me, my name is Mary Maxon. I am actually an author. I am a ghostwriter. I have two books that are out currently right now. My first book is called Wake Up to Forgiveness, which is my mom's biography. And then I have a second book, which is called A Merciful Sinner's Breaking Point, which is a fictional story. And yeah, I think it is definitely touching on what our topic is going to be about, which is mental health. And I've been involved with NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So I've been an advocate, a presenter, and actually I am a state trainer now and a program facilitator for NAMI, Georgia. I am mostly affiliated with Nami the Cab and Nami Gwinnett. And I also have some affiliations that I do things with Nami Cobb as well. And I just definitely love what I do. Currently, right now, I tell people I went from being policing to being a librarian. So those are like two completely different ends of the spectrum, but I love it. And I just love what I do, and I love advocating for mental health. And thank you.
You welcome. You welcome. So, all right, you told us about your two books. You talked about Wake Up to Forgiveness and A Merciful Sinner's Breaking Point. But I want you just to tell us a little bit about those books, and even if you have a common connection with those books. Now, I read both of them, and when I tell you she is an amazing writer, she have you like turning pages. And so, can we just talk about how we met? Because I just think it's a funny story. I just think it's interesting. So, me and Mary both had signed up for an event, and we were told that we were gonna have an opportunity to go on stage. And I don't know what I was selling at the time, but I know she had written a book. I think I might have had an event. I don't know. Well, anyway, we got seated somehow at this person vendor table, a front table or something. So we sitting there beside each other. We started talking. I find out that she was a police officer, and I'm like, wow, I never personally met a police officer. She didn't look like one. I thought police officer women was all rough and tough and everything. And so we kept waiting for our name to get called. We just worked in the front door. And then we realized we're never going to get that
We
opportunity.
got played
We got played. So we
and we
just,
paid.
and oh, yes, we did. And we
Yeah,
paid
and
too.
we paid. I think it was like $50 or something.
I don't know, but we sat
Yes.
there. That lady had us working her table and we paid her too. But you know
Mhm.
what? We didn't get mad because we had made such a connection just sitting at that table, and we had a good attitude about it. We was like, okay, she got us, but that's all right. We met each other. And so that's all that matters. So ever since then, I don't know how many years ago that was. It's been a long time.
It's been since before I moved to Georgia.
Yeah, it's we've been knowing each other a long time, so it just shows you how when stuff don't turn out like you expect, you never know who's God going to connect you with. So tell us about your first book, Wake Up to Forgiveness.
Yes, my first book, Wake Up to Forgiveness, is my mother's biography. And I did my mom's biography because I just always felt like I wanted to give her a voice. I wanted to give her voice so that she can speak up and tell her story, but tell her story in her way, because one thing I like to tell people, because with me also being a ghostwriter, I like to tell people all the time, the one good thing about telling your story is because if you tell your story your way while you here, when you leave, no one else can add and subtract things because you've already told your story your way. So in my mom's story, I would just definitely give a little without giving too much. My mother, she went through a lot growing up, so she really didn't have that much of a childhood. And so for her, she was being raised by her adoptive parents in Arkansas. So I tell people it's so crazy. I was born in Arkansas, raised in Detroit, and now I found myself back in the South. I don't know.
It's
but
okay.
yeah, so like my father, he pretty much like took advantage of my mom from the early age of 11, and she didn't get away from him until she was like 21 years old and 7 kids later. And so for my mother, that's like how we ended up in Detroit, because my father also was a preacher. So the story was it's like I tried to initially look at the story at a bad as a bad thing. So
Mhm.
I named my mom's book Wake Up to Forgiveness with the number 2, because when I went through the process of writing my mom's story, I'll never forget, I was just having nightmares, like, cuz my mother never told us anything growing up. My mom would always tell us, no matter how your father treated me, he loved you girls. I never met him. I've only seen a picture of my father literally like from the neck up, like a driver's license picture. I've never even seen a full body picture. So my mom never brought us up telling us the stuff that happened to her, which I know that was a blessing, you know. And with my mother not telling us that, when it came to for me to write her story, once I started learning everything, like I literally became angry. And it's like, how can you be angry at someone you never met? You know, how could you be angry at I just did. I became angry, and I used to go to work, and it was this one officer. And the truth of the story is me and this other officer, we would get off work, and we went to the bar, and we were sitting at the bar, you know, like decompressing the day's work and just talking. And I'm telling her all of this, and I'm telling her like how I'm just getting so angry, like hearing all of this. Like, how could you go through all of this? But my mom has always been so forgiving. So forgiving. So it was like, you know, it's kind of like the anger towards her. Like, why aren't you mad at these people? Why are you so forgiving? Like you know. So I would get so mad, and my coworker, she was like, Mary, you need to read the Bible.
Mm,
And I was like, huh? She said, you need to read scriptures on forgiveness. And at that time, I actually had never really like read through the Bible. Um, I hadn't even been baptized at that time yet. And so she started sending me to the Bible. She started sending me scriptures on forgiveness. And it was just like, as I got to reading, I feel as though, I don't know. I feel that's when I started beginning to be filled with the Holy Spirit.
mm,
And the more and more I became filled with the Holy Spirit, the more and more God started changing my thought process and the way that I looked at the story. And so that's how the wake up to forgiveness came up, because it was like I realized that forgiveness is not just a word, you know, forgiveness is a phrase. So
mm,
it's like, in order to have full forgiveness, like the totality of forgiveness, like really feel it, you have to understand that you might need to forgive somebody, and then you might need to forgive yourself. Because also in my mom's story, my grandma was in it, and I knew that my grandma never forgave herself. You know, she never forgave herself for what she allowed her daughter to go through. And then that's when it came to me like, you well, both. We need to be able to be forgiven, and we have to be able to forgive ourselves. And that was something that was like a eye opener to me, because I realized forgiving self is like the hardest thing to do.
I
Even
agree.
when I look at my life, even when I look at, you know, just my everyday, like the one thing that I would say that I can only speak personally for me, that I beat myself up on the most, is forgiving myself for things.
Mm.
And so that's why the book is called Wake Up to Forgiveness. Because in my mom's story, I just want people to know that we have to forgive to have peace.
I like
We
that.
have to forgive to have peace. You know, so many times we can beat people up for what they did to us, or beat our own selves up for what we did to others. But if we are not able to forgive self, we're gonna be stuck in a non-peaceful way, you know? And so,
That's
yeah.
it's it's powerful what you said, that last part, that you have to forgive to have peace. Because you feel like when you forgive a person, you let g- you letting them get away with it. You know, you feel like when you don't forgive them, that that unforgiveness is hurting them, that they can feel your vibes or feel your energy, when really it's eating you up inside, and you're the one walking around in unforgiveness. And that's not a good place to be when you're in the Lord, is to be walking around in unforgiveness. And it's hard sometimes to let people go when they do something life change. Because you said your mother was 11, and so your father had to be grown, and he was a preacher also. Wasn't he a pastor?
A preacher.
Just a
Yeah.
preacher? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because
he was I know I know he on my birth certificate, when he started with her, he was 33
oh,
and she was a kid. And
yeah.
so like for my purpose for writing my mom's story is, you know, just to give her voice. And one of the things my mother said is that out of her story, she took that she would love to be a voice for young girls, as to not talking bad about their child's father in front of the kids.
Mm,
Because it's so and I've ran into that in, some of my friends' family, and it's like the woman gets mad at the father, but then the kids take the brunt of the anger. And so
Yeah.
now you've already put this complex in the kids growing up. So then they grow up with a complex or whatever the case may be, because now you've put on them, you look like your father or this
Yeah.
and that. And those are things that kids beat themselves up over. And it's something they never had anything to do with. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
just love on your kids while you have them. And if that father or even a mother, but if the other parent is not doing what they should, that's not your journey to put that on them,
I agree.
you
And
know.
so I agree. I totally agree with you on that. Whatever relationship you have with the other parent, you don't bring your your child into that because
Mhm.
you can affect your child. Sometimes I see people, the mother and father get into it, and the mother or the father is telling the children all their business. That was not like that when we was growing up. Grown folks' business was grown folks' business. And why would you even put a child in the mix of grown folks' business? But let's talk about your book, A Merciful Sinner's Breaking Point, right quick before we get really into our main topic for tonight.
A Merciful Sinner's Breaking Point. The idea of that book came from is it piggyback on me writing my mom's story. So I remember, and I was same coworker, me and her, we getting off of work and we debriefing again, and we were just talking, and we were talking about forgiveness, and she was like, "Well, Mary, have you ever thought about what your father may have been through?" Because I don't want to say that people are born evil, you know?
Yeah.
So a lot of times what I found out is those that are the most chosen, you have to be more prayerful, you know? You got to be stronger in prayer. You got to be stronger. So she was like, "Have you ever thought that maybe he was a good person at one time? But what happened in his life to change him the way that he did?" And
Mm,
then that's when the concept kind of came to me like, oh, a breaking point, you know, a
mm,
breaking point. And so what I did with that book is I just kind of developed a whole story. It's like I actually really love that book. It's a cop story, of course.
mhm,
But what it does is it tests your reality when it comes to mental illness.
mm,
And so that book is definitely a book based off mental illness. What I tell people is when you think about a breaking point, right? I know a lot of people think about, oh my God, I just had a bad day, so now my life is messed up. Or no, a breaking point is a multitude of things that you've been through in your life. So it's like you go through something and you have a bad day, you get over it. You go through something, you have a bad day, you get over it. But a breaking point
mm,
is when you've had a multitude of bad days and you just are over it.
mm.
And so when you think
Wow.
about somebody being over it, it's not just somebody saying, well, I had a bad day at work today, and so now I just need to go home and rest. No, it's from when a person, everything that they've been through hit them at once, from their childhood traumas, if there were some, from their adolescence to their teenage years to their young adulthood to their adulthood. It
Mm,
goes that far because your breaking point is going to be, and I can speak on that because even as we get into the next topic, it definitely goes into that because it's definitely your mental health, you know. So like you were speaking earlier, you don't see when somebody is telling you that mentally they're not well.
yeah.
You can do brain scans, and then sometimes you can see that by looking at a person brain waves or things of that nature. But when it's dealing with the mind,
Mm,
you don't see it.
yeah.
Like you said, you could tell people if you having chest pains, go get a EKG.
Mhm. Yeah.
If your arm hurt, go get an X-ray. If
Mhm.
your foot hurt, go get a cast, go to physical therapy. But when it comes to the mental part, is what people don't see, is where people try to hide. You know,
Mhm.
it's that silence that a lot of people stay stuck in. I say it's like, it's those tears on your pillow at 3 a.m. in the morning that you think nobody sees.
Oh, wow. And you know what? I
Yeah.
can say this. Sometimes we can be too spiritual about it.
Mm.
Meaning that when somebody comes to us, because I remember I was dealing with some mental issues during 2020, because when I was growing up, like I said, tonight is a transparent night to y'all. So when I was growing up from the age of 14 to 18, I had to sit in the house with my great grandmother. I had to take care of her. So once I came home from school, I was in the house. I couldn't go on the porch or nothing. So imagine 4 years of sitting in the house and not being able to go out and everything. So where I think I was maybe I wasn't an extrovert, but I was more outgoing. I became more into my shell, and so 2020 was like a revisitation to that. Because here I am forced to sit in the house again, and basically, but this time I'm told don't be around people, everything like that. So it triggered some things, and which we'll talk about a little bit later. But remember going to somebody and telling them, I was like, I'm having a friend, I'm having issues, with my mind, this and that. I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. Ain't nothing wrong with you. You ain't nothing, your mind strong, da 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 da. And you know what I said, Mary? I said, I can't talk to her about this.
Mm.
And so I just was like, yeah, you're right. And it made me feel more frustrated because remember we talked about as Christians, it's a little different for us when we suffer with mental ill challenges. I call it challenges because we're like, we're supposed to have faith and we're supposed to believe God for our healing and da da da, like that. And so we're so caught up in the shame of being a Christian and having mental challenges that we don't really go get help, or we try to excuse, I'm gonna pray it away. I'm gonna walk by faith. When really it's like if my leg is broken, I'm not gonna pray it away. I definitely can't walk by faith. I might could drag by faith. But you know what I'm saying? With mental illness, we have to take it serious, y'all. That's why a lot of people that really know the word, or we think they use God. Jesus told me to kill this person, or I heard a voice and it was God told me this and that. It's because they internalize that mental illness and try to, you can throw the word on it, don't get me wrong, but they don't get the help they need, and the enemy will pervert it. So that's why it's very important, y'all, as a Christian, do not be ashamed if you have depression, anxiety, whatever you're struggling with. Please don't be ashamed. And so we can get to this part where Mary, she's part of NAMI, which is National Alliance on Mental Illness. Tell us about that organization. And I just think about your trip. Police officer, NAMI, Liberian, am I saying? Library person.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I mean, they're all unusual. So tell us how you became a part of NAMI.
Ooh. I became a part of NAMI because I was in a dark place. And after my car accident, what stopped me from working in my profession was because I was hit head on by another driver that fell asleep behind the wheel, crossed the median, and hit me head on. And I just want to say a little bit about that day because it's so crazy. Like I remember it. I see that day so vividly. So vividly. And this was July 6th of 2016. And me and my best friend, we both were PD down here in Georgia, and her birthday is July 7th, but we both had worked the 4th of July. So we were like, all we want is some barbecue. Still to this day, I love me some barbecue. So we went to Community Barbecue, which is in DeKalb County, and that was some of the best barbecue I done had in Georgia. And Kay, we pigged out. I'm talking about like the whole nine. But we did what a lot of women do a lot of times is after we ate, we were like, now we gotta lose weight.
Yeah,
Now we gotta
gotcha.
lose weight. Now we want to lose the pounds we put on. So I blame it on my best friend. She pulls up this thing called the Master Cleanse. And the master cleanse, we had to go get this stuff, which included sea salt, to where we had to make, I know that was so stupid. We had to drink this stuff in order to try to lose the weight, right? So we go to the health food store, and I say Georgia has what's called a torrential rain. We get to the health food store. It wasn't raining before we went in there.
Mhm.
As soon as we get in the store, it started thundering so bad. The lights started flickering. It was pouring down rain, and kid you not. So we were like, well, let's just get what we got and gonna get out of here before the because it looked like the power was gonna go out.
Mhm.
So we paid for our stuff. We thought we had everything, and so we left out the door, and the rain was just coming down, and so instantly, we both got ready to take off running to the car, but my shoe broke on my right foot. My shoe broke on my right foot, and I did not even thinking about it. I just took the shoe off and ran to the car barefooted on my right foot.
Uh-huh.
So we get back to the house, and then we realized we bought everything but the sea salt. So still to this day, I really don't know if I won or lost the bet, but lost the coin toss. So we decided to flip a coin to see who was going to take Rocket out and who was going to go to the CVS and get the sea salt. It was me that had to go get the sea salt, right? So
Uh-huh.
I leave out of my apartment complex. I go to the left, go in Dollar General. They didn't have sea salt. Go to the right, go down to the CVS, and they didn't. And I'm in the CVS, and I'll never forget. I was talking to my brother about faith, and I
Mhm.
was telling him about my favorite scripture, which is Hebrews 11:1. And I'm literally telling him about that. And I don't remember what I was talking to him about, but I'm telling him to have faith.
Mhm.
And so we hung up, and I left. Then I went in the gas station. There was a lady out there asking for change, and I gave her
Mhm.
some change. You
Mhm.
know how sometimes you think about things and you like, if I wouldn't have did that, how would have turned out, right?
Yeah.
So I gave her the change, and then I get back in the car. I'm like 5 minutes from my house, right? So as I get back in the car, I was listening to like this rap station.
Mhm.
And so I was still fairly new to Georgia, but I really didn't know the stations. But something in me, I kid you not, told me, put it on the gospel station. So I'm going through the stations, and I find the gospel station. And it's this gospel song that I love. And this song came on the radio. And so I instantly turned the song up, and I'm singing the song, right?
Uh-huh.
So as I'm singing the song, I look up and I saw headlights coming toward me.
Uh-huh.
And so that's when I'm like, okay, that's not right. So then I had to get over into oncoming traffic to get out of his way. But thankfully, there were no other cars coming. So I got out of his way, but then he redirected, came over, and hit me head on.
What?
And so,
So wait a minute. He was coming at you, and you swerved over. You passed him?
no, he didn't get, we were like about right here.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I got over
Uh-huh.
into oncoming traffic because he was in the wrong lane. But I had
Yeah.
to get out of his way because this Georgia, we got single lane highways. I think that was double.
Okay. Okay.
So I had to get over. But then he redirected his car, his truck, and then came back over. And then that's when we collided. That's when he hit me.
Oh, wow.
And so when he hit me, I and the thing is, when he hit me, I know I must have went out. But all I remember is I came to, and I saw the smoke coming from under the hood. The horns were blaring, and all I thought is I need to get out of this car. But the song was still playing on the radio,
Oh,
the
wow.
gospel. I'm gonna remember it and tell you. I don't know why I can't remember it now,
That's
but
okay.
it was still playing. And so I'm like, well, let me get out the car. So I undid my seatbelt, and I didn't walk on my foot. I just remember that I stepped out my truck. And when I stepped out my truck, I still ain't feel no pain. I didn't feel anything. So when I stepped out my truck, it was two guys that I had passed before the accident. And
Uh-huh.
so when we hit, they were actually right there. And so they looked at me and they were like, dang, baby girl, you okay? And I'm like, I didn't know. And so I got ready to walk, and they were like, don't move, don't move. So they came over to me and they picked me up and they put me on the curb.
Wow.
And I'm glad I didn't walk because I had enclosed amputation on my foot.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's where all of the bones break and they shatter, but it don't break the skin. So like my heel was in what they call commuted fracture. So it's like you take a cracker and crumble it. My
Wow.
ankle was crushed, right breast crushed, like my part of my tongue was like bit off a little bit, like the whole right side. And so I never technically walked back in the door after that. And so I tell people all the time, I never would have imagined one of the hardest things in life to do was to have to depend on people, you know, not
Mm-hmm.
and not in a bad way, but just having to depend on people, having to ask people to do things for you. So as a result, like I didn't fully walk for like almost 2 years. I was in physical rehab, surgeries, aquatic rehab, everything possible. But my first orthopedic told me from day one that your foot will never be the same anymore. But me mentally, I'm just still
Okay.
fighting. Like,
Yeah.
and craziest thing, I still will go to the doctor. Like, is it anything y'all could do? But what happened is not only was I fighting physically to get my physical ability back and to get
Mhm.
Mary back, mentally it just kind of went there.
Yeah.
It just went there, and no matter how much I fought it, it just went there. So I always knew about NAMI because I used to be a PPCT instructor, which is pressure point control tactics,
Uh-huh.
which is defensive tactics. So I used to be an instructor, so I knew about NAMI because we would talk about mental health during our physical defensive classes. But
Mhm.
we talked about NAMI as a resource too. But I don't even know where the idea came from me. I just remember one day I was in a house, then walls started closing in on me. And that is true when they tell you that. And I tell people, and I'm just being very transparent. Like the walls started closing in on me, and it was just things in my head telling me, like, Mary, you can go to sleep and wake up to the day before your car accident.
Oh, wow.
And so that's all I knew was all kept going in my head was if I go to sleep, I'm gonna wake up to the day before my car accident. And so I try to tell people mental health is their reality. No matter what anybody would try to tell me, my reality is like, okay, you know what? If I keep taking these pills, I'm gonna go to sleep and then I'm gonna wake up and none of this would have ever happened. But in reality, that was a bad place to
Mm.
be. And that
Wow.
led me to the hospital. And from there, it led me to, my doctor sending me to a therapist telling me, like, oh, Mary, you need to grieve the loss of your foot. You need to grieve this. And I'm thinking, like, how the heck am I grieve anything if it's, still attached? And then they're
Yeah.
telling me, like, you need to accept this new you. And I'm like, I don't want to, I don't want this
Yeah.
new Mary. I want my life back. Not only was it my foot, a lot of people don't, and this is something I never really talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Even my breast reduction was because my right breast was crushed. And so many things were taken from me as a result of this accident that it almost took me mentally. And so that's how I ended up with NAMI. And I'll never forget, something just told me to call NAMI because I knew NAMI was mental health, but I was like, I need to get out this house. Maybe if I go volunteer. So one day I was in a house and I called NAMI. I called NAMI Georgia. And I'm like, do y'all have a chapter anywhere in Georgia? And they're like, yeah. So then I found out where the chapter was in DeKalb. And I'm like, that's not far from me.
Huh?
So I called my best friend. We were still roommates at the time. And so when she got off of work, she came in and I'm like, girl, can you take me to NAMI tomorrow? She like, what? I said, I'm going to volunteer. She looking at me like, how you gonna volunteer? It's like 2 years later. Okay, and I'm still on two crutches and a boot up to my knee, non-weight bearing.
Mm.
And we talking about like 2 years later. And so I was like, I just want to volunteer. So when I called NAMI, they told me to come in. And so the next day she did, she took me. And when I went in NAMI, they still would talk about this to this day. I went in there with two crutches and a boot, and they're looking at me like, yes, may we help you? I was like, I'm Mary, I'm coming to volunteer. And they looking like, who you coming to volunteer for? You need help your own self.
Right.
But
Oh,
that
wow.
they didn't. So they set me at a table and I sat at that table and I stuffed envelopes. I made binders. I took calls. I put postages on packages that needed to be sent out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just started volunteering, and from there I got to talking to people and meeting more people there, and that is where I truly realized, and this is the simplest thing ever. Guess what it was?
Wow.
I'm not alone.
Mm.
And not only are you not alone, there are more, you are not the only one. Like when you're going through it, you feel so ostracized, you know?
Mhm.
You feel
You
so
do.
ostracized, like it's just me, or people are gonna think I'm, you know, the C word, crazy, or am I going crazy? You know, because
Yeah.
for a long time I'm even testing them out, like, Mary, what the heck is going on with you, you know?
Yeah.
And so getting involved with NAMI like really is a, it was a connection that I didn't know I needed until I got it.
Mm.
And then I just got to really knowing people, and then I began speaking for NAMI. So I first became a presenter, and so I started speaking out of one of their programs called the Inner Own Voice.
Okay.
And the Inner Own Voice program is, well, let me say this. So NAMI is actually the world's largest grassroots mental health organization.
Well, it's funny. I never heard of it till you
Really?
mention it, and now I hear other people talking about NAMI. So it's almost like a maybe to me a hidden organization. Maybe people don't really hear about it until they really need it. Maybe that's it. Yeah. But
Well,
uh-huh.
mhm.
You can finish and then we're gonna go into a break.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, NAMI is definitely an amazing organization. NAMI is the world's largest mental health grassroots organization. NAMI is one of the first, NAMI is the main organization that was behind the push to get 988 going live. And 988 is the mental health crisis line. You know,
Okay.
so like instead of, I try to teach people about 988 because it's so important. Instead of, you know, even from working in law enforcement, you want to give people help and not handcuffs. So 988 is
Mm.
a national mental health hotline, crisis line.
Mhm.
And you can call 988, you can text 988, you can chat 988. It's completely confidential. Even if you wanted to call 988 for a family member or a loved one or someone you may know in another state, you can do that. And I tell people, you want to call 988 because law enforcement are already overwhelmed and swamped dealing with criminal cases.
Mhm.
So we don't want to send somebody who may be going through a mental health crisis to jail unless it's that time, but you want to be able to get them help. So NAMI is in all 50 states. NAMI is in Detroit. I have connected people with NAMI Detroit.
Oh, NAMI Detroit,
Yes,
y'all. Okay.
yes, NAMI is in Detroit. NAMI is in all 50 states. NAMI has chapters all over. We have a host of signature programs that
Mhm.
are free.
Oh,
Keyword
wow.
free, because access to care is not easily accessible. You know, you tell people go see a doctor. How we know you got insurance? How we know you paid your yearly deductible that goes up every year?
Oh,
How we
God.
know you done paid the co-pays? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
girl, don't talk about them co-pays. I
I
went to the
know. And
doctor
then
today.
oh
It's the
Lord,
co-pays that's
yes.
oh, boy,
And
boy, boy.
then when you go to the doctor and they send you a prescription, what you got to pay? High prescription costs. You
Yeah,
know,
it's
so it's like access to care is not easily accessible. Organizations like NAMI are so important in the community. NAMI is, what's that word? Boots on the ground.
oh yeah.
They are
Grassroot
boots.
boots on the
Yes,
ground.
they are boots on the ground, and they are really working and helping people every day. Like so, the one program. So I am a program trainer out of
Uh-huh.
NAMI in our own voice, which is a program that allows people who have a mental health diagnosis,
Mhm.
but it allows you and teaches you correct way to go around and share your recovery journey. And the purpose of sharing your recovery journey is to let others know that you are not alone. It
Mm.
is okay to not be okay. There are others. You can still, with a mental health diagnosis, you can still be successful.
Oh
You can
yeah.
still be
Yeah.
successful. You can still live your life to the best of your ability. But it's like the hardest part about mental health a lot of times is acceptance. You
Mm.
don't want to accept it. And even if it's not a diagnosis, I try to tell people you don't have to be diagnosed with anything to have a mental health crisis. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Oh
yeah.
yeah, we're gonna talk about that. But we're gonna take a break
Hmm.
because we want to get into the second part of the show. And so while we take a break, I'm gonna give you 1 minute, 60 seconds. Say whatever you want to say. And I'm gonna give the show over to you for 60 seconds while I go on Facebook and see who's been commenting, who's been watching, if we have any questions out there. So go ahead, Miss Mary. Ruby Girl Talk is yours for 60 seconds.
Okay. Well, I just want everyone to know that it is okay to not be okay. We are in a time right now, and Kay made a comment about 2020. And one of the things I learned and what I realized from 2020 is that was true. Due to the fact that we were locked down, people were locked down with their own thoughts, with their own self, that did change a lot. It changed so much in the way we look at life. It changed so much in the way we look at ourselves. One of the things, I work in a library, right? We just realized that so many people are now just getting out because even when we got off lockdown from 2020, a lot of people still stayed locked down. So not only in staying locked down physically, mentally, not only that, grief is suffocating so many people. So many people. And it's like, how can we move forward when we were locked down, but the tools to help people heal from being locked down is so unreachable? It's so unreachable. That's why organizations like NAMI are important. That's why organizations where they can give people free support groups,
Mm.
free peer support, and a lot of NAMI programs are still virtual. I was just online for a 4-hour seminar Sunday. And just to know that so many people are still stuck, or they don't know how to receive help. And even when you think about it, suicide is one of the top leading causes of death, right? So
Mm.
not only is suicide one of the top leading causes of death, depression and schizophrenia are the two leading causes of suicide. And when I think about depression, I can't speak from the schizophrenia part. That's one of the things you can only speak from your personal experience.
Mhm.
And I can only speak from the depression part. And when I think about why is depression a top leading cause of suicide, the reason why is because you don't realize you're that low until you're in a dangerous place.
Wow. That's
And
deep.
yeah, and it's like when a person get that low and they're in that danger zone,
Mhm.
mind you, it's depression. So how you're gonna come out? And then that's a breaking point. That's when people get there, and it's like, and I tell people all the time, you gotta do them MHT check-ins. You gotta do them mental health check-ins. You
Uh,
don't know who you may know may be going through sometimes the hardest people to love can be those that are in a horrible depressive state. Because depression does not have to be somebody somber and sad and melancholy. No, it can be somebody wearing a mask every day, and every day you see them. How you doing? I'm okay. How's your day? It's okay. How's the
wow.
fact? You're okay. How's there? I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Mhm.
But they're not okay. You know, even now, like a lot of times, what I do is when I see people, even when I go to work, I was just
Mhm.
at work today, and somebody was like, Mary, why every time you come out here, everybody come up to you? I said, I don't know, but it's because when I look at people and I deal with people, because not only was I, police, I also was a paramedic, so I worked in the ER.
Oh, okay.
And so I was always I'm so used to, when I deal with people, I'm gonna give you that eye contact.
Mhm.
I'm gonna look at you and I'm gonna observe, you know?
Mhm.
Because how many times, even if you think about it, Kay, how many times do you go to work and you pass people and you say, "Good morning, how you doing?" and you keep going?
Um, it depends. Some days I'm chatty. But before we get into the part two, let's see who has something to say. Okay, so we had Darlene out there. Hey, Darlene, how you doing? She said, if you don't forgive others, it's like they have control over you. Amen. Debbie out there, she said, Amen, amen to whatever we said. She said, Amen. And Debbie also said, don't be ashamed because it's very real. We as African Americans are in denial. Yes, some of us are. And Sonia said, God is able. And Linda wants information on the organization. So when you close out, can you give us your contact information and your information on the organization? So just hold on, Linda. So we're in part two. So we're gonna move a little bit faster in part two because we only have just so many minutes, and I want to be able to get through all these questions because I know y'all like, hey, we want more information. So I want to tell y'all just briefly about my mental health crisis I had this week. Started on Sunday. I was on the phone talking to a friend, and all of a sudden, I'm on my computer and I have this like, I start to have this flashback or something. And all of a sudden, this anxiety came in, and it was so overpowering and so overwhelming. I've never felt anything like this in my life, y'all. And I literally had to tell my friend, I said, hold on. And I had to go walk and pray. And I mean, it took over my body. I hear people talk about that they live with overwhelming anxiety. And I have anxiety. I'm going to say had anxiety, but I've never had anything like this. But was taking this medicine that's supposed to help you, think a little bit better and all that. And I think it was that because I had just took the pill, but I had taken it before. Yesterday, I'm back on my computer again talking on Zoom, and that feeling comes over me again. I had to literally get off the phone and walk. So I said, okay, it wasn't that strong that time, but it was so bad. I literally got on the floor and was like, God, I need you to take this away from me. Today at work, on my computer, here's a flashback. And whatever the flashback is something that I've seen while I was online or something. Nothing bad at all. And so I sat there at work and it went away a little bit faster, but it was scary, y'all, because you don't understand when something takes over your body. I mean, it was like a feeling, like a anxiety to 210. And I was like, some people live with that each and every day because it's some guy that was on Instagram. He was talking about he was gonna commit suicide. He had assisted suicide because he lived with something like that every single day. I literally felt it 3 days in a row. And I was like, I can't imagine doing it every day. And sometimes we might judge people that do assisted suicide because we like just keep living, keep dealing with it, I mean, God understands and all that. But in those moments, those 3 moments that I had, it was something like I never felt in my life. And so I just want to talk about how a mental crisis can come out of anywhere. I literally wanted to scream. It was so terrible, but I was willing myself, don't do it, calm down. I was using techniques. So I want to start off with now there are some things not to say to someone who is having a mental health crisis. So give us 2 things not to say to somebody real quick.
Um, okay. One of the things that I try to advise people not to say is, don't downplay what someone is going through. You know
Mhm.
how sometimes somebody can say, "Oh, prime example, like you tell somebody, like I don't have kids, but if somebody was like, oh, my kid's been giving me a hard time today," and then you like, oh, well, at least you got kids,
Oh yeah. Hmm.
or you tell somebody, oh, this job is on my nerves. Well, at least you got a job. You gotta have empathy. You gotta have empathy because the thing is wherever that person is mentally and wherever it is stressing them, that's their reality.
Mm,
That's their reality. And so we have to learn to start allowing people to have theirs. Because I've been around people and I've heard them do it, you know? And it's like a person can, you know, a person just going through it, doing, going through it. But then, you know, you look at them like, well, what you got to be sad about? You know, you got money in the bank, you this.
yeah.
No, you know, that's their reality. We cannot, and then a lot of times people want to, if someone is sharing with you,
Mhm.
sometimes it's okay to just listen, actively listen, listen intently, and just listen. Sometimes people don't want you to fix their problems. They don't.
That's true.
They
Mhm.
just want to get it off their chest. I don't want you to tell me how to fix it. I don't want you to tell me what your interpretation is as to what I'm going through. I just need somebody to listen to me, you know, and let me
Mhm.
get it off my chest. And when it comes to how do you help? Because we also have a crisis line at NAMI.
Mhm.
And the crisis line, we get calls all the time from people. It's not the suicide line, but it's the helpline. And so one of the things, you know, we teach people, like even if you're dealing with someone that may be not wanting to be here, right?
Mhm.
The best way you do it is you ask clear, direct questions. Don't be afraid to ask somebody, are you thinking about harming yourself?
Mhm.
Don't be afraid to ask somebody, are you thinking about suicide? Don't be afraid to ask anybody, have you made a plan? And you want to ask those yes and no questions because you don't want to give them a room to start thinking through it because now this is
Mhm.
a danger zone, you know? You want to get them the help sooner than giving them that opportunity because like when you're if somebody I just had an incident at my job, kid you not.
Mhm.
One of my coworkers, she's going through a lot, and I was at work Friday, and I go in a book drop, and she was broke down on the floor,
Oh, I'm sorry.
crying in a bad place, and as she got to talking to me, and she was just like, "No, Mary," she said, "you don't understand." She said, "I wake up every morning and I'm mad that I did," and I was like, "Okay, I see where you're at," you know.
Mm.
And I shut up. And I think we were back there, and there were other people that were coming in, and they heard us back there, but nobody came in. And about
Mm.
20, 25 minutes, she just got it all off our chest.
Um,
And I'm still gonna, check in on her. I didn't see her today. But what I'm saying is, this is what I'm saying. A lot of people are going through a lot
yeah.
right now. Life is lifing, and it
Mm.
ain't letting up, and
Oh
it
yeah.
ain't letting up. And
It's
it's like,
life and knifing.
yes, we gotta
Oh
start
God.
giving ourselves grace.
Yes.
We gotta start giving ourselves grace. And then we gotta start being accountable for if we know someone that's not in a good place. Cause sometimes, and then I try to tell people sometimes you may be in a bad place and you might have tried to talk to somebody and maybe they weren't able to listen to you because guess what? Maybe they're not in a good place.
Oh yeah.
So they
Mm.
don't have the know with thought to listen to you. That's why organizations like NAMI are so important. Because with so many people life and with life and for so many people, and it seems like you can't get a break. It's
Yeah.
yeah, those
Mhm. Yeah.
organizations are out there and it's free. We NAMI also, so I told you about the Inner Own Voice program.
Mhm.
Another program that I am an active trainer in is called Ending the Silence. Ending the Silence is another program where we go into the school systems, we talk to the kids, we talk to the teachers, and we talk to the families. And so it's like ending the silence for the student, staff, and families.
Mm.
And then we have sharing your story with law enforcement, which is another one I'm actively involved in. And we go in, we talk to police officers, we talk to fire, we talk to EMS, we talk to 911. But the thing with sharing your story with law enforcement is there are a lot of people who have been arrested as a result of their mental illness, right?
Yeah.
So it allows you to go back and stand in front of those first responders and you share your story
Mm.
and
That's
you make
amazing.
yourself human to first responders, because from a first responder sometimes we get so caught up in the go 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 to where you got to remember to look at each person as they are a person.
Mm.
Because like you mentioned earlier about how one of your friends said something about a blink away. You know, one of the things that I always say
Hmm.
is that we are a blink away from insanity and a paycheck away from poverty.
Oh yeah.
You know.
It only take uh, one incident to
Mm.
kind of push you, as you say, to your breaking point. So we're
Yeah.
gonna it's time for us to close out. This went really, really quick, really quick. And so I want you to close out for us 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
And make sure you give them the information about NAMI and your contact information, even if it's an email or your Facebook or something like that. But go ahead, Miss Mary, 2 minutes.
Thank you so much again, Kay. I
You're
love you. You are
welcome.
amazing in everything you do. My email address is Maxon Mary is MAXIONMARY at gmail.com. And then NAMI, if anyone wants to reach out to NAMI, is NAMIGI. No. Ooh, I don't know how I'm look, too much books. NAMIGA.org. So you go to NAMIGA.org. I know there are people in here that are from Detroit. NAMI has an active NAMI organization in Detroit. So you can just go to NAMI Detroit.org, but it'll pull up for you. I have
Let's
connected a
see.
couple people to the NAMI Detroit. And one thing I will say, what I found out about NAMI Detroit is they just need some good active people in it. But NAMI Detroit is definitely active. And yeah, and then if you're in Georgia, it's NAMIGA.org. Or you can also reach out to me and I can send you the information as well. And then NAMI is free. They have free peer support, free programs, and everything. A lot of their programs are still virtual. So even if you can't get out the house, all you got to do is log on.
All
Yeah.
right. I put out there in the chat, I just put out there the website to NAMI Detroit. It's namidetroit.org. So if you're interested in being a part of NAMI, which I honestly I was interested in it because it sounded like something that I would love to do. But I'll say this, Mary, I know that your accident, I wouldn't say change your life. We're gonna say redirected your life
Yeah.
because you're helping people that's have you always been helping people. You've been a paramedic, you help people that was injured, that were sick. Then you became a police officer. You helped people that was in distress and needed protection. And now you're helping people that have a mental illness or just need to hear your testimony or just need, like you say, to have a listening ear. And so it seems like your life has been redirected and repurposed for a good thing, and I understand, like, I'm getting older and I see some things I can't do anymore, and I, like you, I'm mourn the loss of it. Like I used to love to drive the highway, but right now I'm mourning the loss of that, because it's not the same for me anymore. And so I know it's going to be other things as I grow older that, I might not be able to do, but I'm asking God to redirect my life, redirect my focus. Like, okay, you're shifting me. But one thing I would say, God doesn't take away without giving. So
Mm.
I feel like God has gave you another purpose that we need you for. Mental health right now is prevalent, and I just believe you're the angel sent in the midst of all this that's going on to let us know that if you got through what you got through, we can get through what we get through. So I want to thank you for being transparent because you are a private person. So for her to do this, y'all, this is a big step for her. I'm so proud of you, Mary. I'm so proud of you. So I thank you everybody for joining us on this late night Ruby Girl Talk. And so we had it a little bit later to make sure that we could definitely get this talk in tonight because I felt like it was important. And this is the season and the time. And it's so funny. I got attacked 3 times in a row before this. So it was right on time, Mary. Right on time, divine time. And so everybody, I want to thank you for tuning in tonight. Please reach out to Mary. And if you are having issues, if you are thinking about harming yourself, if
Can you
life
put
is life,
988 in your chat?
oh, 988
988, the
oh,
mental health crisis um,
line.
rescue line. Yes.
Okay. Could somebody be my secretary and put 988 in the chat? Because I'm going to put it in the chat too after the video, but somebody will put it in out there that's watching. The check's in the mail. Don't cash it, hold it. But anyway, I
Like,
just want to say thank you all for watching us tonight. We're signing off Facebook. We want to thank you. We want to thank you once again and ask you to tune in again next Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the Ruby Girl Talk. Thank y'all so much. Good
thank you
night.
so much. Have